The delay, let's begin with a formal welcome. Now I request the Head Department of Microbiology, Mr. D. Kannan sir, to welcome all.
The respected resource person of today's international webinar, Vikineswary Sabaratnam ma'am, respected principal of our college, Dr. S. Mathivannan sir, respected head of the department of various disciplines, faculties of our college, participants from other institutions, and my dear student friends, good morning to all. It's my immense pleasure to give a cheerful welcome to our resource person of today's international webinar, Dr. Vikineswary Sabaratnam Madam, Professor and Head Institute of Biological Sciences, University of Malaya, Malaysia, accepted our invitation in her busy schedule to deliver a scientific presentation on mushrooms, the nature's gifts. Ma'am is going to present a very interesting and vital topic because of mushrooms are miniature pharmaceutical factories and of the thousands of mushroom species in nature. Our ancestors and modern scientists have identified several dozens that have a unique
Let's
combination
begin
of
with a formal welcome.
that improve our health.
Now I request the Head Department.
Abraham Lincoln also says, whatever you are, be a good mushroom. Our resource person is a great world-famous scientist and academician. She is well known for her various researches on systemic and bioactivity of marine actinomycetes, mushroom biology, and their bioactive metabolites, phototropic bacteria for bioremediation, and as a live feed enhancer. On behalf of our management, principal, faculties, students of our college, we wholeheartedly welcome you, madam. My desire is to extend a gracious and inclusive welcome to our respected principal, sir, Dr. S. Mathivannan, and smart person who opened the door to new understanding and lead us a good way. Under his efficient guidance, creative freedom, and leadership, we are conducting such webinars. I show my gratitude along with this delighted welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Kannan.
Next, I extend my heartiest welcome to the scientists, faculty members, research scholars from other institutions, head of the department, faculty members, non-teaching staff members, student friends of our college. I hope that today's international webinar will be productive, fruitful, and beneficial for your future studies and research. Once again, and I extend a warm and cordial welcome to one and all. Thank you. Over to Sophia, madam.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our beloved principal, Dr. S. Mathivannan sir, to felicitate us.
Such as antifungal, antioxidant, anti-cancer, and antiviral properties. The great scientist has contributed much in the field of mushroom research and development, as mentioned by Dr. Kannan, head of the Department of Microbiology, during his welcome address. I am sure that the experience and the expertise knowledge of the resource person will be much useful to the participants to understand the concept of today's discussion. I take this opportunity to welcome and thank the resource person, Dr. Vikineswary Sabaratnam, who has accepted our invitation during her busy schedule to share her knowledge and research experience in today's webinar. On behalf of our management and faculty members of our college, I welcome all the active participants and also I wish for the grand success of this webinar. During this scientific session, our resource person will highlight the various current technologies and its applications available in the field of mushroom research. I hope that this webinar will be highly informative and interactive to share the ideas of scientific thoughts among you. The great scientist Thomas Carlyle says, "Nature alone is antique and the oldest art a mushroom." Yes, I am sure that this international webinar will also reflect the thoughts of the scientist. Finally, it is my duty to appreciate and congratulate the head and faculty members of Microbiology Department of our college for organizing such a wonderful international webinar for the benefit of the budding scientists, the faculty members of life science discipline from different institutions in India as well as in abroad. I take this opportunity to wish the alumni of Microbiology Department of our college. Let me conclude by wishing that each one of you will carry back from here some wonderful scientific thoughts that will flourish you in the galaxy world of research. Good luck for you all. Wish you all the best. And once again, I thank you one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Sanjeev Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Microbiology, to introduce the resource person of this webinar.
Thank you, ma'am. It's my great privilege, and I'm very glad to introduce our today's chief guest, Dr. Vikineswary Sabaratnam, ma'am, Professor and Head, Mushroom Research Center, Institute of Biological Science, University of Malaya, Malaysia. She is well known for the research conducted, which includes systemic and bioactivity of marine actinomyces, mushroom biology, and their bioactive metabolites, phototrophic bacteria for bioremediation, and as a live feed enhancer. She has more than 50 masters and 20 PhD scholars, and a number are currently pursuing their degree under her supervision. She has successfully completed various projects, research activities sponsored by national and international grants, including various industrial funding agencies. She has won several rewards and awards for her research findings, both in Malaysia and at international centers. She was elected as the first women president of the Malaysia Society of Microbiology in 2001. And she also got prestigious microbiology award in 2011, and also top research scientist award in Malaysia 2014, and fellowship academic science in Malaysia 2015, etc. She has published more than 265 papers in peer-reviewed reputed journals, proceedings, bulletins, book chapters, and various books, etc. These are about few words about our eminent resource persons, and we are very proud being as a part in our today's webinar session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Vikineswary Sabaratnam, ma'am, the session is yours, ma'am. You can proceed now.
Thank you, everyone. Kale Vanakkam, and a very good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for the kind introduction and having me share my research passion for the next hour. Foremost, I would like to thank the management of K.R.College of Arts and Science, the principal, of the K.R.College of Arts and Science for welcoming me to share my passion. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank the head of the Department of Microbiology, Mr. Kannan, which organized this webinar this morning. This gives me a good opportunity to share my experiences as I journeyed for almost 30 over years in research, ending with mushrooms as my final goal. As there are many young scientists or aspiring microbiology fraternity among the participants here, I would like to briefly share my research experience and how I ended up in this topic. When I finished my BSc, which was in botany and zoology from the University of Mysore, I went on to do MSc Medical Microbiology, also at the University of Mysore, but in Kasturba Medical College in Manipal. When I returned home to Malaysia, I had the opportunity to pursue a PhD in industrial fungal biotechnology, so I switched. Yes, as mentioned, include purple non-sulfur bacteria, both for bioremediation and as a live feed enhancer. Actinomycetes, a very fascinating group, which will enthrall and keep many young microbiologists going. And finally, mushroom is a wonder. And that's why I decided to talk to you all about mushrooms, nature's gift, so that I can share how I journeyed through together with mushrooms to reach this stage. It's 1 hour is really not enough time for me to share everything I want to share. But what I want you to do is take home messages. All right? Sometime in life, we have to make changes, but if we accept those changes, we embrace those changes, it always happens for the good. I believe every change that we face or every so-called obstacle we face will gear us into pathways where we will be successful in the end. So that journey is very, very long. So once again, I thank everyone. But before spending much time, I would like to deliberate on the subject. And as I know, Dr. Subbu told me there's a very large audience. I'm not sure how I'm going to take the questions. Maybe you can type, or maybe Dr. Subbu and her team have some way of managing how I will answer. It is available, so I welcome you to communicate with me in next time if you need. Don't feel shy. I will reply, maybe sometimes not immediately, but definitely I will reply your mail. Okay, so with this, I ask permission so that we can go straight away into my presentation. Can I present?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I go ahead, huh? Okay. This morning, I'm presenting mushrooms, nature's gift. And as already introduced, I'm from Malaysia, from the University of Malaya. And this is my email address. Feel welcome to communicate with me if you need. Now, the outline of my talk for the next 40 minutes or so will be based on these subheadings, starting with what are mushrooms? I'm sure all of us during our life, we have come across mushrooms in many different instances, maybe in the beginning in fairy tales. I'm not sure whether in India the fairy tales have mushroom. I tried to Google, but really couldn't manage to find any in this short time. But Alice in Wonderland is something that all of us relate to, right? Then we have decorative items, we have fabrics, all right, books, separators, little tabletop items, which are all made in shapes of mushrooms. Now, we see mushrooms, maybe in a familiar restaurant or a hotel, or mugs, all right, a small fountain, also based on mushrooms. If you look way back many years ago in Algeria, these were some of the paintings or drawings on the stone. Then we had some similar carvings and drawings in Nigeria, very way back, 7,000 to 9,000 years ago. And even in India, in the first millennium BC, they found these large umbrella-shaped stones in Kerala. So mushrooms are not really alien to us. They have been in and around our lives for many years. Now, those of you who are used to walking through grassland or through forest, or even in your neighborhood where a tree has been cut down and the stump has been left, you will see all the mushrooms growing. All right. So in the forest, my team and I, we managed to find this huge bouquet of microcybe mushroom. This is where the excitement is when you are in the deep jungle. Okay. Then you have things growing on stumps. Closer to home, sometimes you find your wooden chapels. You may have mushrooms growing if they are moist and they've been left, or even a brush that we use to polish our shoes. And in the garden where you plant plants, even there we have mushrooms. So what does this tell us? That mushrooms are everywhere. This is a little bit on the divine mushroom of immortality, the soma, the shamans, even Christmas. Santa Claus is related with mushroom. All right, so we have mushrooms in all civilizations, in all instances. History, when we look at history, 5,000 years ago, the Chinese were using Ganoderma species already as a medicinal herb. While the Iceman who was found he was carrying Cryptoporus betulinus, mostly also for medicinal purposes. These are polypods known to have medicinal value. So what are mushrooms? The mushrooms are fungi. Sometimes we say fungi is not in microbiology, but for me, fungi also is part and parcel of microbiology, because sometimes we didn't need to use microscope, etc., to look at them. But mushrooms are a bit different. Mushrooms belong to the fungal kingdom, which is a sixth kingdom created to cater for the fungi, which are not like bacteria, they're not like plants, they're not like animals. So they warranted a kingdom of their own. I believe mushrooms are nature's gift and the most wonderful curiosities. They are macrofungi because we can see them. At least you can see their fruiting bodies, which are either above the ground, which most of the mushrooms are above the ground, or some are below the ground. And what is important here is we can see them with our naked eye by hand. Another marvel about mushrooms, they appear almost out of nowhere, especially after a long dry spell, heavy rains. You see them appearing. You look at their shapes, colors. They're so different. So if you look at my slide, you can see they're all types, shapes and sizes and colors. And those that we can eat have various different gastronomic properties, ranging from aphrodisiac to poisonous. And mankind have been bewildered by them, not now, but for a very, very long time. So how do these mushrooms grow? Normally, if you're walking around, if you in the jungle or grassland or in your neighborhood, if you have a piece of wooden log which has been abandoned, or a tree trunk has fallen, or twigs have fallen, if you observe carefully, you will see the mushrooms growing on them. So what do they do actually? Mushrooms are saprophytic organisms. They're heterotrophic. They cannot make their own food, so they have to look for ready-made food. But can you imagine mushroom trying to eat a piece of wood? It doesn't make any sense, right? But mushrooms have some helps them to derive nutrition from these organic matter, dead organic matter. They use them as their nutrient source. They use them as their support because you find them growing on them. So what they do, they adhere to the organic matter, the dead organic matter, and they derive nutrition from it. Now, I'm talking here about dead organic matter. That doesn't mean mushrooms don't attack living trees or living organic matter. In that case, they become pathogens. They become parasites. So here we are talking about the saprophytic heterotrophic mushrooms. So what they do, they digest the polymers. As you know, wood is made up of cellulose. And then they convert the cellulose as nutrients. Then the mushrooms will assimilate the nutrients, and when they form this mycelium on the substrate, and when they're ready, they will form fruiting bodies. Right? So that is how they grow. This is their life story. Mushrooms have a life story. They're
She married a beautiful woman and they lived happily. One day, he happened to see a beautiful lady named Madhavi who was a beautician. So much that he left his wife.
okay, I will continue. The life history in brief. They have an asexual phase and a sexual phase, though we cannot distinguish this clearly. So the mycelium will grow, but before we get to that stage, the fruiting body will release spores. The spores will germinate to form the monokaryon. And the monokaryon, when they find suitable mating partners, they will mate, and that is indicated by a clamp connection. And they then will grow and form the fruiting body. Then from the fruiting body, we'll get the sporing structures. Now, different mushrooms have different types of fruiting bodies or different types of spores, but generally this is the life history of mushroom. So what are mushrooms? They are without leaves, without buds, without flowers, yet they form fruit. As a food, as a tonic, as a medicine, the entire creation is precious. Those who are familiar with mushroom will know Sir S.T. Chang. He is touted as the father of mushroom. All right, he is now almost 90 years old and still very much into promoting mushrooms to the communities. So now that we know what are mushrooms, what are the beneficial roles of mushroom? The roles of mushroom in nature, this I mentioned, they grow on dead organic matter. They're saprophytic nutrition. All right, they absorb the nutrients from the log, which is actually made up of cellulose, hemicellulose, which are produced by plants during photosynthesis. And during photosynthesis, carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen are locked into this speed of wood. So what they do is they play a role in the biogeochemical cycle. They break down this wood, the polymers, derive the glucose for their nutrition. At the same time, carbon dioxide and water are released to continue the photosynthetic part. So this is recycling of nutrients. So what if mushrooms are doing this or fungi are doing this in the environment? This is where we look at them and realize that mushrooms' natural role in ecology and the environment, using the mycelium to harness the nutrition with their enzyme system, which are extracellular. If we look at all this, then we see what the mushrooms or the humble mushroom is doing in the environment, contributing to biogeochemical cycle, has now become something very huge for us. It has opened the doors to many technologies. What we can do is convert the lignocellulosic agricultural residues. For example, when we grow rice, only 40% is rice on our table. 60% is the misplaced resource. In the oil palm industry, which is very popular in Malaysia, only 20% ends up as the palm oil. 80% is lignocellulosic material. So with the help of our partners, the mushroom, we can convert all this to food, the mushroom itself, feed for animals and other poultry or fish. We can convert to fuel like biogas, and also a lot of biochemicals which have health benefits and industrial benefits. So mushroom has so much to provide us. So who is exploiting the mushrooms? Exploited by human, by us, by animal, and by plants. Plants in the form of mycorrhiza. If you look at the root system, this root system is connected with the tree root system, and a lot of awesome things are going in there. All right, it's very wonderful to read, and this is actually a big opening for young microbiologists to explore how the fungi and the bacteria system in the forest, how they help to communicate. Believe me or not, messages, the pathogen attack to other trees. Who does the job? The fungal mycelium. They send food. The mother tree apparently sends food. How? Through her root system, and the fungi are the pipes. So there's so much. These are new things coming up, so much to explore. Plants also exploit or use mushrooms. They grow them in their ant hills. The termites, they chop your wood, they take it back to their nest, but they cannot digest the wood. It's the fungi which will digest, release the sugars for the colony's food, for the queen and for the babies and for all those that live in the colony. And when time comes, they will form the fruiting bodies. These are very tasty mushroom. I'm sure many of you are familiar. It's called the thunder lightning mushroom because it comes after heavy rains followed by thunder and lightning. Finally, we can exploit mushrooms or sustainably use mushrooms as food, feed, nutraceuticals, and medicine, right down to bioremediation. Mushrooms were first cultivated in China way back in 600 AD. Auricularia species, which is also known as a jelly mushroom or woodea mushroom, or there are many other common names, was first cultivated in China. And subsequently, in the 18th century, button mushrooms or agaricus species were cultivated in France. So quite a long time in between. Now, before we go into other details, a little bit about global production and global consumption of mushroom. If you can see, China is the biggest producer, while US is the biggest consumption, because of their size. And what we find, maybe we will fall under the others category, but definitely there's a huge market for mushrooms. All right. Almost many countries, like although China is the leading country, but India is also picking up. This statistics, I think, was way back in 2012. Maybe by now, India is also very aggressively pushing mushroom production and mushroom consumption. So there are 6 big mushrooms identified by Chung and Miles in 2004, which are found in 32 countries. And among them, many may be familiar to you, the Pleurotus species, the shiitake or Lentinula adudus, button, Agaricus bisporus, the auricularia or the black jelly mushroom. This is the golden needle, and this is the straw mushroom. Now the figures here indicate 2004, Chung and Mal said 6. 2012, we still have the same 6 top mushroom, and this is the percentage. So if you look at it, Pleurotus about 27% production, shiitake about, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We cannot see the slides, please.
Can you see now?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible. Yes, ma'am.
So these are the new figures, okay? Button about 30% production and the others. So what I'm trying to say here is after about almost 8 years, the top 6 still remain the top 6 mushroom. So what is the impact of the culinary and medicinal mushroom resources? All right. This is mushroom from our diversity. I'm not going into diversity today. And then we found that this diversity we can exploit in many industry. So that's where we have biotechnology, which is actually using microbes and fungi for industrial purpose and other related purposes, bioindustry and bioeconomy. All right. So we have healthcare, antimicrobial agents, antiviral agents. There's a lot to be explored here, especially in the current pandemic. There are many publications coming out how mushrooms can help us fight this pandemic of COVID-19, because mushrooms have properties that can boost immune system and do have antiviral properties as well. What happened to my... Okay, I apologize for that. I better open up completely, then I explain. Okay. So we have mushroom for food and chemical industry. All right. We have mushrooms for environmental health. We can have mushrooms for in the forest, agriculture. And in all this, what we need is to find the right mushroom for the right application. Applications are many. For example, if you take a look at the food and chemical industries, you can have fertilizers, you can have pesticides, biofuels, single-cell proteins, enzymes, fine chemicals. So there's so many things that we can get from mushroom. The answer is finding the right mushroom. So we'll start off by mushrooms as food and raw materials in food products. Here will be from forest to health, tapping the wild resources and domestication of wild, temperate and commercial mushroom. So our resource is actually from the forest. We have to go and look for these mushrooms. This can be based on what we call capture, luck, or we can rely on the traditional knowledge that our indigenous people who live in the fringes of forests or in the forest have, because they are found to use a lot of mushroom resources, both as food and medicine. Once you have the wild type, you have to domesticate them. Domestication is not only for wild type. We can take a temperate mushroom, that means something that is growing in the cooler regions, and bring it over maybe to England, from England to maybe Malaysia, or from China to India, any of these hotter countries, and try to domesticate them to grow in our environmental condition. There are also commercial mushrooms which are picked wild, which can also need domestication. So when you talk about culinary and medicinal mushroom, approximately 14 commercially harvested wild species. There are more than 30 wild non-commercial edibles. That means they're edible, but there's no commercial scale for them. And we are cultivating maybe 20 over species, maybe a bit more, because China is always introducing many new species every year. Now, when we look at medicinal mushrooms from the wild, cordyceps is top because it's so expensive. It's about 7,000 US dollar for kilogram. The Cordyceps sinensis is found in the highest mountain. They grow natural. They need this insect. And if you look at that, you can see that this is the insect pupa, and this is the mushroom. So this is something mankind is trying to cultivate, be successful. The cordyceps that we see very popular now is the Cordyceps militaris, which is very different from the Cordyceps sinensis. Now today I would like to share with you all our journey in domesticating and taming a wild medicinal mushroom which is used by our indigenous people. It is called the tiger milk mushroom. Scientific name, Lignosus rhinoceratis or Lignosus rhinoceros. Now, why do we need to domesticate and cultivate it? This mushroom has communities of Malaysia who live, as I said, on the fringes of the forest or in the forest for more than 400 years. Currently, it is hailed as a national treasure. It is found in a large geographical region in many countries, like even including China, Thailand, Indonesia, and maybe in India too, if you look for it. Why this mushroom? Now, this mushroom has a strange tale. It's called tiger milk mushroom because the indigenous people believe when the mother tiger is feeding her baby, if drops of milk end up in the ground, that's where this mushroom will grow. And this mushroom, this is the part that is above the ground, and the sclerotia is under the ground. All right, they slice it, they boil it, and then they drink it. Now, when they drink it, it increases alertness during hunting and is used to treat more than 15 illness. All right. So this has been a big research endeavor in Malaysia. So we found it in the wild. We grew the mycelium, and it is cultivated now on grain cereals for a period of time, a couple of weeks, and you get a product like this. And this product is then produced or processed to form capsules so that people can take. Among the diseases, they say it is helpful is asthmatic. I am not doing any validation here. I'm only presenting. So I'm not going to say whether this product is good or not. But what I would like to say is it has taken us more than 14 over years to move from the forest to a product. So it's time. It takes time. Another way we are trying to cultivate this mushroom, which has got immense medicinal components, is try to imitate the cultivation as closely as we can to the wild, natural environment. So what we do is we colonize the mushroom, not on grains, but on sawdust or logs or on wood, and we bury it. And after a period of about 4 to 6 months, we will see the mushroom forming in this form. And finally, this is the sclerotia that we are interested in. Above ground, you see only the cap, whereas underneath, you will see the sclerotia. And here is how it is being marketed. So we have done a review. If you're interested, you can read. It's an open access, the status review. So those who are interested, though the journey of domestication may not be very well explained, but I can share with you if you are interested to know more. That was from forest to market in the health sector. What about nutrition? Again, we were trying to tap wild resources. We tried to domesticate and bring these mushrooms to our table. Mushrooms are not only considered as quality vegetable, but as food. You can make finger food, you can vegetarian food, you can make soups, sauces, drinks, can be therapeutics, can be nutraceuticals for general well-being. In fact, worldwide, if you look and follow mushroom cultivation and mushroom-related research, there is a big upsurge in mushroom cultivation. It's identified to have industrial potential that can contribute to economy and balance of trade. In India, there is a mushroom entrepreneur by the name of Divya Reward. She has been moving mushroom cultivation to help prevent what we call urban migration, keeping people in the villages, etc., and promoting mushrooms as a way for generating income. So where do mushrooms fit into our dietary advice? Mushrooms are like other white vegetables like potatoes, cauliflower, etc. We don't have much guidelines for those, all right? And I believe white mushrooms are a forgotten source of nutrients. So these can help to meet dietary shortfalls in nutrients, especially fiber, magnesium, potassium. So if you're a vegetarian, this could be a good complement because sometimes texture-wise it's almost meat-like and it has high protein and it can help us balance our diet. So it's more wholesome and more nutritious for us. Now, recently it has been found that mushrooms modulate gut microbiome. Why am I highlighting gut microbiome? Because recent findings show that the microorganisms that live in our gut play major roles in our life. They influence how we look, whether we are slim or we are fat, how we think, maybe how we feel. So these microbes need the right diet so they can function well and produce the elements that are controlling the many functions in our body. So what they have found is mushrooms are prebiotic for the gut bacteria. So they're not probiotics, but they are prebiotics. And they help to keep a healthy gut microbiome. And this field has a lot of potential for exploration. How the mushrooms affect the gut bacteria. Which mushrooms will be good for the gut microbacteria. So young microbiologists do take note. So what is food? Food is a daily portion which we can take about 100 to 150 grams, which will provide 50% or more of the daily requirement of an essential substance. For example, if we take 100% of steak, it will give us 30% of our daily protein requirement. So meat is a valuable food for protein. On a dry weight basis, mushrooms contain about 90 to 35% protein compared to rice, 7.3%, milk, about 25%. Soybean is about 39%. So soybean is comparable to many of the mushroom species. Now, when we talk about myoculture, it is whether we like to eat mushrooms or not. Many of us don't like to eat mushrooms. Many of us like to eat mushroom. We are microphilic, but some of them are microphobic. But what is this mycoculture? The mycoculture is previously mushrooms were known for what they didn't contain. They said mushrooms don't have cholesterol, they have cholesterol, they are low in fat, low in sodium, low in calories, low in carbohydrates, they contain mannitol. So everything don't have this, don't have that. But recently, mushrooms are being discovered, connected to what they contain, especially the healthy components. They're a good source of vitamin B, potassium, selenium, protein. They have beta-glucans, which are immune enhancers. Then they have others like anti-carcinogen components, they are hypercholesteremic components, and then they have antioxidants. So the antioxidants, phenolics, selenium, and ergothioneine. Ergothioneine is mainly made by fungi and mushrooms in particular. Antioxidant source, ergothioneine is a powerful antioxidant. Mushrooms are a rich source of ergothioneine. A professor from Pennsylvania University, Professor Bielman, I forgot to put his name here. If you Google Bielman, he has worked very much on antioxidant and especially ergothioneine. It says it contains about 30 grams of fresh oyster mushroom and can provide the daily requirement of 3 grams of ergothioneine. But do not eat mushrooms raw. So we go back to the 6 big mushrooms. These are the common mushrooms that we find in large numbers. Commercial scale, we can buy them in the supermarket in many forms, fresh, then processed and dried. So why do we need to tame wild mushroom, temperate mushrooms, commercial mushroom? So we want to enjoy other varieties which have good organoleptic properties, good taste, good flavor, but they are not in commercial scale yet. So over the years, we have been looking at Hericium, lion's mane, giant pleurotus, chestnut or tea tree mushroom. They have the white and they also have the brown. This is the common variety. And from India, Psilocybe indica or the milky white mushrooms that are being or have been tamed and brought to commercial scale in the recent years. Now the giant mushroom, oyster mushroom, Pleurotus giganteus, is found in this region. Also maybe India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia. This is from the wild, all right, from the wild specimen. And then we domesticated. It took us almost 8 years or more to get into this form. So this is the cultivated mushroom. And we have published a paper tracing some of the cultivation methods and also the biological composition, as well as the health-promoting chemical composition. This paper, I'm not sure whether it's online, but you can write to me if you want to read this paper. So mushrooms as components of human food, they have medicinal as well as tonic properties. So we can explore them to enhance longevity and healthy and graceful aging. So now how mushrooms can benefit us, the knowledge has to be widely communicated, publicized, and we should encourage the inclusion of mushrooms in our diet every day. Though some say we should not eat mushrooms every day because they have so much of chitin, they will have a laxative effect. So you can go by your own health or your own body physique. If you can eat every day, you can eat. If not, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. And about 100 grams of fresh mushrooms per day should suffice to get all the benefits. So enjoy your mushrooms, either fresh as a dish, or they can be made into nuggets. All right, this is fresh, this is dried. And then they also have chips, they make pickles. And here, the lady I mentioned, mission mushroom for reverse migration to urban areas. And this is her set of her pickles. So her name is Divya, and if you Google, you find that she's doing a lot of marvelous work. How mushrooms can help generate income at the same time, clear up the waste that we're generating in our fields by producing many different products for both human consumption and maybe animals as well. So mushrooms as supplements and therapeutics. This is something people are also looking at because they're trying to discover what mushrooms contain. And this was also a slide presented at the Mushroom Summit in 2012. And if you look at this diagram, you see the big ones, ergothioneine, which is a powerful antioxidant. Next, we talk about bioavailability. Diabetes is very much in the picture. Cancer, cognitive research, gut health. And I've already touched on this, and this is a very big area. How to maintain a healthy gut. For a healthy gut means a healthy you. All right? And also meat substitution. Floating bodies, submerged cultivated mycelium biomass, and liquid broth are where the bioactive compounds are found. About 77% of these compounds are from the floating bodies. The balance, about 21% comes from the mycelium, and maybe about 2% from the broth. That is why maybe lots of people are growing mushrooms. They're not waiting for the fruiting bodies, though most of the goodness is in the fruiting bodies, but it takes a very long time. They're growing the mycelium in grain and cereals and other such material to reap the goodness of the mushroom. Now, among the medicinal mushroom, Ganoderma lucidum has been known for a very long time. 400 different chemical substances, 140 different triterpenoids. It has got ergosterol. All right, and these are some of the products that they make from Ganoderma, from face cream to tablets or capsule to coffee, drink. And as all of you know or may know, it's a very bitter mushroom. You cannot cook this and eat, but it has got a lot of terpenoids, which have many functional properties. Many of them are being validated. They say good for our cognitive function, help in aging, good for liver, etc., etc. So these are all being not only scientifically being validated, but there are also some clinical trials, etc., going on at this moment. Among the success stories is Schizophyllan. Schizophyllan is a mushroom that I'm not sure whether in India any of the communities eat, especially the communities who live in the forest. But this is a very popular mushroom among our Malay folks. And this is normally found growing on dead rubber wood trees and other woody material. And some research have shown that they have a strain beta-D-glucan, which was developed way back in 1986 in Japan for treatment of cancers, especially cervical cancer. Second story is from shiitake or lentinular edodes, which is the more recent name. Lentinan, another anti-tumor drug, was developed also in Japan. Both these cases were using mycelium cultures in liquid fermentation. The third success story is myloban, which comes from the mushroom, which is known as the lion's mane mushroom. And the male lion's mane look a bit similar. So the common name, it has many common names, but lion's mane is the most popular. They found properties or components in this hericium which help to trigger or induce nerve growth factor synthesis. And lack of NGF may contribute to Alzheimer's disease. At the same time, it reduces oxidative stress in the brain, and this will prevent the formation of amyloid beta peptides, which leads to neuronal death and maybe Alzheimer. So this is a mushroom which has a commercial product being made. Research was done in China, in Japan, and the US. Now in Malaysia, hericium is a temperate mushroom. It is supposed to grow in the cooler regions of Japan, China, US. So what we did is when this mushroom reached our shores, we told our growers, why don't you try growing it? Of course, we were a bit worried because our temperatures are very high. We are a tropical climate. Will it grow or not? And indeed, it grew. And this discovery was done by our Department of Agriculture. They found that monkey head mushroom, that is the other name, or lion's mane, could fruit at our high temperatures. So the next question we had to ask ourselves, yes, it is growing at higher temperatures. And as microbiologists, we know if we alter the growing conditions of the microbe, especially actinomycete, if you change the temperature, you change the nutrition, then the metabolites they produce will be totally different. So what about the mushroom? Now, lion's mane mushroom has two signature properties. One, it helps, as I showed you in the earlier slide, something for our brain health. Second, it is also good for the gut. Prevents gastric, keeps a healthy gut and things like that. So we did grow the mushroom, and then after that we, what we did is we did the experiments and we found that both the properties are intact. So we successfully domesticated the lion's mane mushroom. Similar work we have done with oyster mushrooms, and we have shown them to have very many properties, functional properties like antioxidant, anti-tumor, fibrinolytic properties. So then we move on now quickly to mushrooms in agriculture and forest ecology. In one slide, I will explain that in the forest ecosystem, especially beneath the soil, beneath our feet, there is a winning collaboration, a social network of plants, trees, fungi, and microbes. And earlier in the talk also, I mentioned how trees under attack can send signals to warn other trees that danger is on its way. Mycorrhiza is one such healthy interaction between plant roots and the mycelium of fungi. So this is the area where there are lots of research can be done because most of them are in hypothesis state, or we are postulating this is how it is happening. The tree produces the chemical signal saying I'm under siege, and this signal is carried by the fungal mycelium to the neighboring trees. And if those neighboring trees are susceptible trees, they will react, they will prepare. If they're not, they will say, oh, something is happening, something not good is happening, let's get prepared as well. So all these things have to be validated. So we need mushroom and the mycelium network for a healthy forest ecosystem. What about mushrooms in zero waste processes and bioenergy bioremediation? We find that, as I mentioned earlier, we follow what is happening in the environment. We take the lignocellulosic material, which is paddy straw, oil palm waste, and I already mentioned paddy straw will get about 60%, 40% is the rice on our table, and then you can grow mushroom. The Psilocybe indica, or the milky white mushroom, which came from India, is now grown in paddy straw and covered with a layer of soil, just as we do for butter. And these are the lovely mushrooms, which I'm sure many of you have tasted. It's very nice taste, and it's a good, robust mushroom. Doesn't get rotten so quickly as like oyster mushroom, so you can keep it longer on your fridge. So one last slide, zero waste, mushrooms in a circular economy. You take your waste, organic residue, agro residues, maybe at no cost or minimal cost. You grow your mushroom using the mushroom that you want to grow. Then from there, you can have mushroom, you can make products, or you can go into the pharmaceutical, nutraceutical line. All generate money. Here is a waste material, almost zero cost or minimum cost. And even the waste that is generated after we have harvested our mushroom, we can use microbes to do composting. We can include the worms, and these become soil conditioner fertilizer to grow our vegetables. Or you can extract enzymes and use them for bioremediation. Or you can use the spent mushroom, which is now very much less in lignin, for bioenergy, biogas production. Or you can upgrade it further for animal aqua feed. So from zero waste generation, this cycle, and because it's a circular thing and it goes round, it is now touted in the circular economy because it's called waste to wealth, where we start off with a paddy straw, which we thought has no value, and we can generate so many different products using mushrooms partnered with other microbes where needed. Especially in composting, we need a lot of microbes. So this is bioremediation. This is a mushroom in the forest, grows in the wild. If any of you remember, way back when I showed the log colonized by an orange mushroom, this is the one. From that, we extract the enzyme and we can do bioremediation. However, word of caution here, many of these successful studies are yet to be tested under field condition. So it's one of developing the right application technology, and also enzymatic reactions take very long. So these are still challenges that we have to overcome. So right now, after I've given you some screenshots of what mushrooms can do for us, I'm sorry I cannot cover everything. But up to now, I hope, like me, you also believe that mushrooms are nature's gift to humans, to feed, to fuel, and heal humans and the world, that is the environment. So lots and lots to be explored, lots and lots of studies to be done. And I hope this small introduction will trigger your innovation and your passion to explore mushrooms further. So finally, we have some challenges that we face. All right, for edible mushroom, the consumption, the awareness of health benefits, the diversity that has to be grown, the downstream processing for value-added products. So there's a lot of research and development that has to be taken up, and it has to be ongoing. Now, other challenges we feed, we are taken from the wild and we are cultivating it artificially. Some questions we must ask. Does repeated subculturing affect the biosynthetic mechanisms of mushroom? I already told you that many bacteria, including actinomycetes, if you subculture them too many times, oops, it's gone, the biosynthetic mechanism and the novel drug that you initially found. So is it the same in fungi? This has to be addressed, studied. Which modern method is the best to tap the medicinal mushroom? Or should we just imitate the wild condition and grow them as they grow in the wild? Another big major issue that we face, if you tell everybody mushroom is tasty, people will eat. But if you say mushroom is good for their brain, they say, how come you know? How much must I eat every day? So they'll ask you many, many questions. Right now, many of the studies are in the lab scale. They're in vitro trials only. It's not enough to endorse a product or a functional attribute of the mushroom. In vivo studies are needed. What do we use? Do we do rats? Do we do larger animals? Do we move on to human trials? Other than that, another issue with mushroom is to identify the active ingredient, the efficacy, the pharmacokinetics have to be looked into. And these mushrooms, if you talk to the indigenous people, they only take it when they are sick or they need to go forest, they need the energy. They don't take it regularly. So should we encourage regular or long-term usage? Or what effects will long-term usage of this medicinal mushroom have on the individual? All these have to be addressed, studied, and validated. But search and discovery must go on. Can we find another Ganoderma with its long history? It's still sustained. It's still the premier medicinal mushroom, the reishi mushroom. But we can still find, hopefully we can find more Ganodermas. What we need is dedication and passion. and it's going to be a very long journey, definitely more than 10 years or more to domesticate and to get the product into the market. But one shortcut which can think of is the ethnomycological knowledge. This is where we have to capture that knowledge before we lose the elders in the forest. In Malaysia, the older generation are there, or their age, or they are no more there. The younger people have been migrating to the edge of the forest and some to urban areas. This knowledge is being slowly lost. Try to capture. I think it's good to have a good program where ethnomycological knowledge is carefully and systematically documented, and we must remember the ancestors' instruction. If they say boil, maybe we should consider aqueous extraction. If they say we take it with liquor, then maybe we should take off ethanol extraction. These are some of the things that we have to bear in mind. So in conclusion, I hope in this short an hour, not the hour, maybe about 45 minutes, I have just given you nano information, little bit of information, but enough information for you to trigger your interest to do mushroom research across board. I'm not only talking about the young future scientists, also the young scientists. All right. I moved into mushroom research only in late 90s and early 2000. Before that, I was dabbling in other things. So you can still move. There is no hard and fast rule. We have to stick to only one type of research. So in conclusion, I believe mushrooms are a treasure trove of nutrients, such as proteins, secondary metabolites, glucans for immune system, micronutrients, polysaccharides, all that are good for our health. Mushrooms have both heat-labile, heat-resistant components. You must remember that. Never eat mushrooms raw because they have certain toxic heat-labile components which will be deactivated in cooking. I never promote eating of raw mushroom. The least you must blanch for 10 minutes or so. Okay? And if you're thinking of medicinal property, some of them are bound, especially the phenolic components. So you must release them by suitable processing, and it must be bioavailable. And as I mentioned earlier, we must be able to tell people how much to take, how much not to take, how long it will take. Okay? Almost in a drug pathway, but this is not actually drug per se. We also need a lot of research for cultivation method, domestication, bringing more mushrooms, edible varieties, medicinal varieties. We think about substrates. I mentioned about straw, oil palm. There are many other organic materials which we can use. How to improve the substrate formulation so that the mushrooms that we produce are nutritional and the functional properties can be enhanced. However, there is no one fit for all procedure, though in many countries, including Malaysia, they use one type of formulation to grow all the different mushrooms. This is not the optimum way to do things. Okay, before I wind up, I would just say something in brief about MRC. MRC is a research center, Center of Excellence for Mushroom Research. All right, this is our mission and our objectives. We have some core principal investigators, and we have some associate members. We also have national and international collaborators. And our current HRD training includes 18 PhD, 12 masters, and some biotech students. We have a total impact factor of 3.3 for the moment. About 170, maybe plus another 10% is not updated to current. About 50 postgraduates we have trained, and we have garnered about 12 national, international activities. Feel welcome to write to me if you want to know more, or if you would like to work along with our team and our interested in the kind of research that we do. So come to the end of my talk. Time for me to thank the organizers of the webinar, the management of the K.R. College of Arts and Science, the principal of K.R. Arts and Science for graciously giving me this opportunity, and of course the head of the Department of Microbiology, Mathivannan, for hosting me, and of course the organizing team. I think we did this in less than, maybe I'm not sure, Subu, maybe two or 3 weeks. And she caught me at the height of my final semester teaching and my exams, whereas it has been not say stressful, it was tight, but this is something that I enjoy talking about. And since you come from a very large, different background, the participants, I try to make it as light and easy as we can. Now, many of our work has been supported by the University of Malaya and also by the Ministries of Science, Technology, Innovation, and the Ministry of Higher Education. And a lot of this work, of what I presented, was done by the members of the MRC. Our collaborators have been very helpful. A number of publications go together with our national and international collaborators. And of course, for me, I believe the postgraduate students, you are the link. It's your commitment, your hard work, and belief in what you are doing may change the direction, the research that your guide or your supervisor take up in their career. And it happened to me. All right. The reason I'm in mushroom research is because of one student of mine who brought in the latest information. And after we discussed, I said, hey, why don't we do mushroom research as well? So here I am presenting to you what we've been doing over the last few years. And I hope this is just a small stimulus or probe to steer you into mushroom research. Thank you very much for your attention. Nandri, thank you. And terima kasih is in our language.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a wonderful talk on mushroom. Ma'am, there are few questions in the chat box as well as in the YouTube. Shall we move on to question and session, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. One question is from...
Somebody said terima kasih. Who is that? Thank you.
Ma'am, one question is from Vijay Shekhar, ma'am.
Okay, if I can take in here, I can take. If not, we can type the question, I can answer as well. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. Mushrooms contain lot of polysaccharides, beta-glucans. Which mushroom species contain high polysaccharides and beta-glucan?
Which mushroom contains the highest beta-glucan?
Yes, ma'am.
And polysaccharide. From my own experience, I can't give off my head. I don't know why it's not coming, but mushrooms like the oyster mushrooms contain a lot of polysaccharides and beta-glucans. And we have found in our own research that the oyster mushroom, the gray oyster mushroom, Pleurotus pulmonaris, has even insulin-like properties. All right, and it plays some significant roles in lipid metabolism. What they call this mushroom, if carefully explored, might help in diabetes, what they call diabesity, that means obesity and diabetes. And we are currently moving into some human trials with this mushroom. So the oyster mushrooms are very good for beta-glucan and polysaccharide. Even king oyster, if you have, it's got a lot of cation. That's a good combination to have in a mushroom for health reasons and immune system function reasons.
Thank you, ma'am. One question.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon.
Okay,
there is a question in the chat group about poisonous mushroom. I didn't want to touch into poisonous mushroom because there's so much to talk about it. For me, I advise if you're not sure of the mushroom, please do not eat. Even if you collect and you have some doubts, don't eat because there are look-alikes. If the person who asked me if you're aware, the Chlorophylla molybdis or the green parasol mushroom looks very much like the termite mushroom. And we always get poisoning because people confuse this mushroom with the poisonous with the the edible. So if you're not sure of your mushroom, please don't eat. Better safer to buy from the supermarket and eat. All right? Even sometimes the ones that are edible, if unfortunate for you, if someone has sprayed some pesticide, this happens in Gujarati areas, then you might get some poisoning as well.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question is from Swarna, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Poisonous components, the one that I know is a nitrogen-based component called hydrazine, which is even found in button mushrooms and many other mushrooms. And this is a heat-labile nitrogenous compound, which when you cook, it is broken down, then it is not toxic.
Ma'am,
Next question.
can I ask a question?
Mushroom diversity is larger in wisdom. I'm sorry, I don't know much about your scenario. Diversity, I can't give any names offhand who are working on diversity of mushroom. I know the Center for Excellence of Agriculture Botany Research in Madras University. I think there were some scientists there working on mushroom diversity. That I don't have often answers for you, but if you need me to search to find who's working on diversity, I can. But I think these days, all this can be Googled, right? You can find. Okay, differentiate between edible and poisonous mushroom, as I told you, is very difficult. Some people say if an animal has eaten it or an ant has eaten it, or when you cook, if the garlic turns black, don't eat. Please, don't listen to all this. Either you know your mushroom or you don't know your mushroom. All mushrooms can be eaten only once. If you're lucky, it's not poisonous. If you're unlucky, if you eat amanita, this, that's it. Sorry. So be dead sure that you know the mushroom. I, for one, I will never pick and eat from even though it looks very much like the termite mushroom. I'm also very worried because sometimes around the end hill, people may have put pesticides to kill the termites, and your mushrooms may be accidentally poisoned, though it is not a poisonous mushroom per se.
Hello, ma'am. May I ask a question?
Any more questions?
Yes,
Since
ma'am.
they have high value, suitable. Yes. Mushrooms can be formulated if done properly for malnutrition. It can be for the elderly folks, right, who can't eat a lot of because of their tea, and also they become fussy about their food. So you can prepare functional food, all right, based on mushrooms. You can. You can do single mushroom, or you can do a couple of mushrooms you can mix, and you can have
Madam, I have one more question.
food for, I'm not sure about babies, though in America, one of the companies was trying to do a baby line, but I never saw that. We can, or for the, what we call the busy executive, you can have some kind of mix. You need not only mix mushrooms, you can mix it with other plant-based, maybe herbs or spices, all right, which can enhance the functionality of the product.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Ma'am, it was a wonderful information you have shared with. I'm calling from India. I'm Dr. Pooja from Indore. And ma'am, I'm also working on mushrooms. Ma'am, I wanted to know whether you're working on vitamin D2 on mushrooms, especially on oyster mushrooms.
But then come again, working on which mushroom?
Oyster mushrooms, ma'am, are you working on vitamin D? D2?
Oh, vitamin D. No.
Yes.
But let's say if you expose the mushrooms that you have harvested, the fresh mushroom, to certain light regimes, or even for that matter, even sunlight, if you expose them, the cholesterol can be converted to the vitamin. But I personally am not working on it. But
Okay.
a lot of work has been done with button mushroom. So you can try similar for some mushroom.
Actually, ma'am, we are not able to find any good testing facility for vitamin D2 because vitamin D3 is being tested everywhere in India, but in mushrooms contain vitamin D2. So we are facing challenge in getting it tested, the concentration.
Okay, I tell you what, you drop me an email. I will find out whether our local labs do D2 or not.
Okay.
Right now, I don't have.
And also, ma'am, as you had said that it has a good like for diabetics, it can act as insulin and it can be very much helpful. It is containing beta polysaccharides. So, do we have any paper regarding that? Any study supporting that fact so that we can easily support oyster mushroom promotion?
You can Google and see if we can get hold of some of our mushroom application for lipid metabolism and also insulin-like properties. If you have problem getting hold of our paper, I can give you some. We have done some. In fact, as I mentioned, we are now moving into human trials. Based on the animal trials, we are moving to human trials to see whether oyster mushroom consumption can help modulate diabetes and obesity.
Okay, ma'am. I will write you an email. I'm Dr. Pooja from India, ma'am, Indore. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Wonderful information.
Thank you.
Madam, please, can you share your presentation PPT?
Thank you, everyone.
Can you share your presentation, ma'am, please?
Magic mushrooms. May I know where is magic mushrooms? I'm sure they're found everywhere. They're definitely found in Malaysia. I'm sure they're found everywhere. Only thing, our scientists are not really looking at magic mushrooms. In Malaysia, not to my knowledge, though we have come across it, but we have not picked it up and we are not going to do research for the moment.
Hello, madam.
Yes.
Hello. Ma'am, what are the major diseases affecting mushroom, ma'am? Fungal or bacterial diseases or insect pest that affect mushrooms?
I'm not clear. I'm getting a lot of echo. It's better if you type your question.
Madam, what are the fungal diseases affecting mushroom or any other diseases affecting mushroom?
Okay.
Pest. Okay, ma'am.
Yes, when we do mushroom cultivation, we are growing them on agro residues which are converted to sugars. So there are other fungi, the microfungi like trichoderma.
Yes. Okay.
Who, if they come in, then they will overtake the cultivation substrate. Yeah. Trichoderma is the main
major fungus affecting our mushroom, ma'am. Pest, ma'am. Pest also affects mushroom, ma'am.
Yes, fruit flies and other flies. Because if you don't harvest your mushroom on time, they give out a lot of volatile compounds, and these can attract insects. So if your mushroom has a lot of insects coming to it, the danger is they will lay eggs. And when you put your mushroom on your shelf, this will hatch, and you have a lot of maggots in your fruiting body. So you must harvest your mushrooms early.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Please feel free to drop me an email if I can't take all your questions.
Good
All
afternoon,
right.
ma'am. Hello.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Ma'am, I have a question. Ma'am, what are the key elements if one wants to start startup? Like the required space, and what about the temperature? If one wants to start it somewhere, the required temperature the place
Your
will have.
question didn't come through. I got your second half about the temperature. As I mentioned, mushrooms have a range of temperature that they will grow. That means the mycelium growth, and this may not be the same for fruiting. The fruiting temperature and the mycelium growth temperature may not be the same. All right. But what we have found in our experience, some of the mushrooms were able to domesticate. For example, the lion's mane mushroom, which was originally from China, we have domesticated and it's now comfortably growing at very much higher temperatures. And the property that we look for in this case is to induce nerve growth factor and to stimulate neurite outgrowth present in the mushrooms. The only thing we found that when we dry the mushroom, we have to do it below 40, 45 degrees. If you dry the mushroom at about 60 and above, this property is lost. So this is something that you have to bear in mind. What temperature to grow your mushroom, what temperature to process your mushroom. That's why I say there is not one procedure for all mushrooms. For your mushroom, you have to determine what is the active ingredient you're looking for or what is the function properties you're looking for. And then is this still there after you grow? That means the way you cultivate it, harvest the fruit body, and the way you process. It could be. In lion's mane, for example, cultivation temperature does not affect the active ingredient that promotes neurite outgrowth. But if we heated the temperature, we tried the mushroom at very high temperature, then this is lost. Okay.
Yeah, ma'am. And what are the other elements required, or space, or anything for the startup?
For mushroom cultivation, you need the carbon source, you need the nitrogen source. Sometimes we add some calcium carbonate and gypsum. There are people adding other agro residues because if you use, for example, rubber wood sawdust, the CN ratio is very high. So sometimes if they have like corn cobs, all right, nitrogen source, of course, comes from rice bran. And if they have other agro residues like cotton seed, cotton, anything, as long as you bear in mind that you have to keep the right carbon, right nitrogen source for your mushroom. Any agro residues you can try. You can try certain grasses, all right? And I'm not sure what other hardwood trees you have, paddy straw, oil palm residue. But for each of them, you have to check. You have to go through a systematic formulation testing. That means you can do linear growth studies, you can do radial growth studies, and then finally move into the polybag to see that the formulation is right for mycelial growth and for fruiting. It doesn't mean if the mycelium grows very fast, your fruiting will be good. There has to be a balance. And these are all needs on-site research by the farmer or the grower, which you can do in collaboration with the scientists in the colleges and in the universities.
Ma'am, the last question, I would end up with that. Ma'am, how much costly is it to start up a mushroom startup?
But then how?
Costly to start mushroom cultivation.
I'm not sure. In India, in Malaysia, depends on what scale you want to do. All right. I always advise if you want to grow mushroom, look out for someone who's already growing mushroom. Get from him maybe what got mushroom logs or mushroom bags, maybe 100. Get to know how to look after, how to make it, how the fruiting, how to harvest, how to do the subsequent cropping. And if you're comfortable, then only you go into mushroom production. Because you need equipment for many stages. So it's no point jumping in straight and then finding it is going to be very difficult. Believe me, mushroom growing is not hard, but it's not easy either. It is like a 24/7 kind of a job. You really have to learn how the mushroom. All right. And once you become a mushroom entrepreneur, you are the expert, you are the scientist. You must know what is going wrong and what you need to do to give to help mushroom produce the fruiting bodies for you. Believe me, because the mushroom, you put everything there, it's not going to go out and look for resources. It depends on you to provide it, not only the nutrition, but also the environmental condition. So you have to be really vigilant during mushroom cultivation. Why don't you approach, I'm sure if your state agriculture department or something, they will have this information to help you get started.
Okay, ma'am, I would look it up, right? Okay, thanks, ma'am. It was delighted to hear you.
Thank you.
Any other queries?
Thank you, Madhu.
One thing more. May I ask?
Yes.
Ma'am, you are at Malaysia, you are doing it in an organic way by boiling method or lime method, or chemical methods are also being used there? Because in India, most of the people are doing oyster mushroom cultivation using formalin and other antifungals.
No, we don't. We don't use any pesticides because we are growing oyster using sodas. It does not need any pre-treatment. But if we are doing paddy straw, because straw carries a lot of fungi, I think a good hot water treatment should help you reduce the pathogen in the fungal load. Don't use formalin.
Okay, so ma'am, for cleaning the room and fumigating it, what is there any other alternative for formalin you are using there?
You can have. Let me see what are they using here. Look here, also we don't use formalin. They use other milder detergents, all right, Clorox, or you have a good UV light in the room. You can just clean. You have a good HEPA filter. I don't think you need to use.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
Madam, I have one question. Madam, I'm from Telangana. I'm doing assistant professor in horticulture university.
Okay.
Madam, actually, I have one question. That is there any mushroom will be used for the aquaculture or poultry?
Used for, but then poultry, yeah.
Aquaculture or poultry.
Professor, you're a professor of poultry.
No, madam. Actually, is there any mushroom for feeding in aquaculture or poultry?
Oh, okay. You can try oyster mushroom, because when you harvest the oyster mushroom, a lot of stalks are left behind.
Okay.
These stalks are actually quite nutritious. You can take them and process them to incorporate into poultry feed and aquaculture feed.
Okay.
But I personally have done a little bit of work on aquaculture, just very fundamental. As for fish, there are people now looking into incorporating Ganoderma.
Yes.
Ganoderma biomass into fish feed. I mean, this is more for the adult fish, not for the baby fish.
Okay.
Yeah,
Madam,
because,
tell me. Madam, another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that shiitake mushroom? You said that is lightning mushroom, lentitodes.
Shiitake mushroom?
Is that edible or non-edible, ma'am?
Shiitake. Shiitake is edible. It's Lentinula edodus. Lentinus edodus was the old name.
Okay.
The new name is Lentinula edodus. It's edible and it's a very flavorful. A lot of people like this mushroom.
Okay. Thank you, madam.
And I'm
Thanks
sure
for the.
somewhere in India people must be growing.
Okay. Thank you, madam. Thanks for the information. Thank you.
Ma'am, I'm Pradeep Pandey from Indore. Ma'am, my question is, कि how Ganoderma spores affecting in plant, because mushroom is affecting only mushroom grow in saprophytes. So how Ganoderma spores affecting in plants, living plants?
No, we have some mushrooms with are pathogens for forest trees and plantation trees, Rigidiporus. Ganoderma boninensis is for oil palm, and then we have another species which is for palm trees. There are pathogens. I mentioned to you that among mushrooms there are pathogens, but not all. All right. So the mechanism how they become pathogens is very much a big question mark. We really don't know why they invade the plant, because from my reading, even mycorrhiza cannot invade a plant if the plant doesn't allow. Right? So maybe here, maybe it attacks the plant because the plant is undergoing stress, or it's not in optimum health condition. There's so many questions to answer. That's why, especially the Ganoderma infection of oil palm trees is still no closure. There's still, I don't know how many years of research, maybe 30 over years of research. We're still not getting anywhere to solving the problem. All right. There's a question on whether mushroom can be used for cancer treatment. There are essentially earlier cancer, like there was triterpenoids and lentinan, which have been used for cancer. But I think it's an integrate complementary kind of treatment. Maybe you have to do both. Take the chemotherapy, radiotherapy, maybe together with some mushroom. This is what they are doing, complementary medicine, they call it. And they say you can help prevent cancer, although we don't have hardcore evidence, is by keeping your keeping your immune system tip-top. All right? These are all question marks. Things have not been really validated. But there is no harm in us taking mushrooms on a regular basis, because I think it does more good than harm. All right? Unless if you're sensitive. That's why I say you must know yourself. Because some of us cannot take mushroom every day. It becomes a laxative. So you'll be, so if maybe it's good for constipation, maybe, right? Yeah.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Sushmita Nath, UG student of microbiology. I have a question, ma'am. Recently, micro nanotechnology, green synthesis of nanoparticle has gained immense interest in research. Can you please inform something about that if you can? It will be very.
You're talking about nanoparticles using mushrooms?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes,
that means you prepare nanoparticles using mushroom extracts.
No, ma'am. I did not. I just studied it as a literature study. I found that research. So I want to have some more knowledge, if you can, that about green synthesis of nanoparticles that from Kovilpatti species particularly.
I didn't catch all your question. Can you type your question?
Okay, ma'am.
I'm not catching it. Yeah, please type.
No problem.
Ma'am?
Production. Okay, recent event of. Recently, what do you call?
Production of nanoparticles by mushrooms.
Yeah, you can. You can use a mushroom extract. We have a couple of papers. You can Google. I think one of them is also online, which is free. Journal of Nanoparticles, I think. If you have a problem, just email me. I'll send you the papers.
Ma'am, can I give you email ID? I don't have it.
My email?
Yes, ma'am.
Wait. Let me.
Ma'am? Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
Ma'am, shall we stop the query? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the wonderful talk, ma'am.
Subbu, is it this one?
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome. I hope you all enjoy.
Thank you, ma'am.
At least if you don't do research, at least eat more mushrooms. Eat more mushrooms.
Now I request Dr. Subbulakshmi, Assistant Professor, Department of Microbiology,
to propose
vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to all. It's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks for this great occasion. First of all, I thank the Almighty for showering all blessings on this day. I wish to express my gratitude to our management and our beloved principal, Dr. Mathivannan sir, who gave us constant encouragement and gave us permission to conduct this international webinar. I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to our chief guest, Professor Dr. Vikineswary Sabaratnam, who has accepted to deliver this valuable and fruitful speech on mushrooms, the nature's gift. Thank you, madam, for spending your precious time with us amidst participants. I hope your expectations, your doubts regarding mushrooms has been fulfilled. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to thank our HOD and our teacher, Mr. D. Kannan sir, for his constant support and guidance. We are honored by the participants from India and other countries who took part in this event cheerfully, and I sincerely thank them for their participation. I would like to thank faculty members of Computer Science Department, especially Mr. Saravanan sir, Dr. Benjamin, and lab technician Mr. Mariselvam sir, for their moral and technical support for making the webinar a great success. I extremely thank my colleagues, non-teaching staff of our department, as well as other department staff members of our college. Once again, I thank one and all. Stay safe, stay home. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome, Dr. Subbu and team. Thank you for having me, and I hope I have shared some or stimulated some interest among the participants. Right? Mushroom industry has a big bright future for your country as well. And I hope to see some of you going into mushroom research from K.R.College, especially the microbiology department. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You're always welcome to write to me if you need any help.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, welcome. Do you want me to, can I leave the meeting? Or yes, someone, anybody wants to ask a question? I'm still here for another 5 minutes or so.
We will send to you mail, ma'am.
Pardon?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, we'll mail the questions, ma'am. Shall we wind up, ma'am?
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, Subbu, nothing more. I leave the meeting? Can I leave now? Or you want me to wait?
Yes, ma'am.
I wait a bit more in case somebody wants. Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Naveen.
Thank you.
I wait in case somebody still want to ask a question. Mushrooms for menstrual problems. I have not seen any research, but among the many mushrooms used by our indigenous people, they have indicated one species, but we haven't had research started on that aspect yet. Maybe finding the right model, right? The only thing I can tell you is maybe if you are prone to heavy bleeding, avoid mushrooms during the menstrual time, because many mushrooms have anticoagulant and fibrinolytic activities. And anticoagulant means they prevent clot formation. Fibrinolytic means they thin your blood. So you may experience heavy bleeding. So if you're like going for an operation or any surgical procedures, also avoid eating mushrooms at least a week before the procedure, if you can. On the mushroom stability, currently we are doing some work with oyster mushroom, mainly the king oyster mushroom and a few others. And we're currently looking into this aspect, especially the temperature of processing, and maybe sometime next year we will have some data. Right now, I don't have any data of our own. All right. The only thing, as I mentioned earlier, some of the functional properties can be affected by the processing technique. Some prefer higher temperature. Their like antioxidants can be enhanced. Certain properties are completely lost by the processing temperatures. Right? Sun drying, many people recommend, but sun drying is also not very suitable because of the differences. Maybe as the sun rays come through different times of the day, different amount of UV light, or maybe. So it's better to do controlled drying in controlled, incubators or oven, if you're thinking of product making, and ensure that the particular component that you are targeting is not lost in the process.
Shall we wind up this session, ma'am?
Hello. Madam, can I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Madam, you told that while drying and cooking, some useful, some harmful metabolites will get rid of. We can. What about some useful metabolites also can be lost while cooking? Please, can you throw some light on it?
Because from our own experience with the lion's mane, as I mentioned, when we dried the mushroom at different temperatures, we found that above 45, the ability of the mushroom to trigger new outgrowth, that means it is now stimulating nerve growth factor production if your mushroom is heated to a higher temperature. However, the antioxidant properties improved with a higher temperature. So at the end of the day, you must be clear what you're processing the mushroom for. And if there's a specific component, you must identify the component so that you can use this as your marker compound. So that every time you do the processing, you just check whether this particular compound is present or not. All right, and how much it is present. All right, so that's why some mushrooms we have to do aqueous extraction. Some mushrooms we do ethanol extraction, and some we have to keep the temperatures down. You have to know your mushroom. And you have to do the systematic research with the proper controls so that your results are reproducible. All mushrooms are hydrazine, all properties are lost at 45 degrees. I can't tell that. Like for example, phenolic components, which are very important for as antioxidant properties, they too you cannot heat above 45 degrees.
Okay.
The best cooking method will be just blanching or putting into a soup. Right? Not long hours of cooking. Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, ma'am. Have there been any research that has been done on the use of any mushroom to cure anything like fibroids and the likes?
I'm so sorry. There's a lot of echo. Do you mind typing your question? Then I can answer.
Okay, ma'am.
Very quickly. Or oyster mushroom powder in a day. For ergotation, Professor Bielman said from his work, he's suggesting 30 grams of fresh mushroom per day. All right, and that maybe in terms of dry weight, it may be about 3 to 5 grams per day. Again, it depends on the mushroom and what is that whether you're looking for the beta glucan. You have to quantify somehow, right? Yeah. Sorry, can I come back to
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes, left. Yes, left the place.